Seyco, and we have Dan here with Chicago Celtic Crafts. This is our first Makers Live. I'm so excited, and welcome, Dan. Thank you for coming. So, Dan, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself? I'm going to make you big here. Hold on a second. Let's see here. There we are.
Oh, thank you very much. So about how many folks do we have on our live, our first Makers Live?
Let's see here. We have, well, I can't see them all. I think we have about 7 jumping on right now. We got Steve, Path, Charles, all in the chat here.
Fantastic. Okay. So thank you so much, Seyco and Shaylee, for having me on. I'm honored to be the first Makers Live participant, and looking forward to many more. So my name's Dan Schumacher. I worked in a lot of different roles all my life, but recently was offered to retire early. Worked for the phone company for about 24 years, and they gave me a little bit of change to get out of there. Like 15,000 people they were trying to downsize back in 2018. So I finally left in 2019 and decided to go to school for woodworking. And there's a school up here in Chicago called Chicago Industrial Art and Design Center, which offers mostly artistic type of woodworking, metal casting, metalwork, and CNC instruction, stuff like that. So I took a course on woodworking because I knew I always wanted to work with wood, and I wanted to get comfortable with the big machines. So got a couple of projects done and then went on vacation. Took my family and traveled to Ireland. Even though I have a German last name, both my parents were Irish. And so I had a huge Irish influence my entire life. And we decided to go visit our relatives. Never been back there. Even my grandfather, who was born there, never went back. My mother never traveled there. So it was a great honor to go there and meet the family on the farm where he was born. So I've always had an affinity for all things Irish and woodworking. So Chicago Celtic Crafts. Chicago's where I'm from. And if you notice this shirt, it's a hybrid Chicago flag. I didn't design it. It's actually one of my customers. It's their foundation, is the Sisters Celtic Cross. And they actually approached me last year. They were they wanted to surprise their mom. Their father had passed away, and they built a foundation in his honor. And the foundation logo is actually a Sisters Celtic knot. And so he says, hey, we're redoing the basement. Would love to have a massive Sisters Celtic knot in our wall behind our bar. And I was like, I'd love to do it. So I built a couple of prototypes just so I could get comfortable with, what it was going to look like. So I made some small ones. That's what we're going to do today. And I even have a big one as well that I'll show you in just a minute. But because you have to make 2 at a time to do what I'm doing here, and I'll explain that in a moment. But there's a lot of history there. So anyway, I love what I'm doing with that. I'm also a commercial photographer part-time. So my retirement is still finding ways to earn my living, but having a lot of fun doing it. And woodworking from this aspect was really one of my first loves. So I first started out with scrolling. When I first retired, I bought a bunch of used tools. Everything I bought was used. And it was a great way to get involved without a whole lot of expense. And then my first scroll saw was a very old 16-inch scroll saw. And they had to tape it down, screw it down, do whatever I could. A lot of vibration, but boy, was it fun. And some of the parts were really worn, and it just wasn't giving me the type of output that I wanted. I was getting very frustrated with it. And I said, it's time to, probably one of the most favorite saws in my shop, and really can create so many different things with it. I decided to upgrade. And I looked at everything. I looked at you name it. I looked at it, and of course, it was during the pandemic. So I started following all those folks that are the big names in the scroll saw world, and they had reviews out there. I looked at all the reviews, and I really wanted to maybe jump into maybe a Delta or forget the yellow and black one. But when you start looking at the higher end saws, that's it's kind of a big outlay. But I thought if I'm going to do this and be serious about it, I wanted to have a reliable saw, and so I chose Seyco, and I think it's over a year now, and I have no regrets. I mean, this thing is built like a tank. I mean, this is a really big table. I got the big base on it, and what's nice about it is it came with. I had to level it again today because my shop is unheated, so I haven't been out here since Christmas. I was out here this week cleaning up the shop. But what's nice about Seyco is they include this digital gauge, so that you can make sure that the saw and the blade are perpendicular to the table, and they even include a small square to make sure that your blade is going to be set properly, because it's important whether you're cutting straight or on an angle that it's lined up properly. It also has a vacuum on here, a blower to blow away the dust. It has speed control on it. I only had one issue with it. With the upper control arm was a little bit loose. Called the 800 number, and within minutes got through to great customer support, and they knew right away what I needed to do. Just make an adjustment, and it was done. It was ready to go. And my sons and I were counting all the projects that I've done in 1 year, and this is since I started up to last Christmas. And I think we came up to like 46 projects that I've done, and most of them, not all of them, but most of them were done in a scroll saw. And I would say 70% of them were done on this one. And so, because like I said, I got this about a year ago. And the other thing that's really important to have is good lighting. I picked up one of these lights that has the magnifier in it. And getting to be my age or anybody's age, once I started using it, it really helps when you're doing the fine line cutting, which is kind of like what we're going to do today. So before I get started with the actual project that we're going to go through, Shaylee, can I ask if there's any concerns or questions before I begin?
Sure. And anybody in the chat I'm actually on both chats. So during the live, if you guys have any questions at all, just put them in the chat. I'll make sure that I read them to Dan at some point when he's able. And we'll get those questions answered for you guys. As well as if you jump on, say hi, so we can say hi back and know that you're here.
Awesome. Thank you. So, and before I go, I had to pick up some blades last December. Actually, I needed some blades, and I want a gift certificate on one of the promotions Seyco was having, and I got a whole bunch of restock on blades, and they included a really good brochure. And I pretty much know what's on my list here, things that I don't have. But we're going to talk about some of these things as well today, because they are important. They're not just trying to sell you a bill of goods. These are tools that really, really help in the process of what we're going to be doing if you're serious about scroll sawing. So what I found here is I needed to make a couple of prototypes for this big Sisters Celtic cross for this customer. And so I made a couple of small ones, and we went back and forth, and we finally agreed on what we wanted to do. It's a little bit different than what I'm going to show you today, but basically all I did was I found two different species of wood. I like to do bare wood with oil finishes and shellac, but this year I'm also going to in the wintertime when the shop was down, I took some drawing and painting classes because I want to infuse color, either oil, watercolor, or acrylics into my woodworking. So real exciting. Had some time to learn a couple of new skills. This year I want to get into more, incorporate into my work more pyrography and painting and some other different techniques. So trying to elevate the work here. So anyway, what I have today, and you can do any species that you want. I really wanted to try this in Paddock or bloodwood or leopard wood for the heart because we swap out the parts to make the heart stand out. But for today's demo, I have just butternut wood, which is real nice and soft to carve, but I found it can be a little bit of a challenge. And then I also have some spalted maple. It has some really cool grain going through it. And so what I'll do is walk you through the process of getting this set up. So, and in this instance, I cut a couple of pieces of wood that are the same thickness and same size, basically cut it in to fit my pattern. And as we go through this, I just want you to understand, this could be any symbol. It doesn't have to be Celtic. It's whatever you're interested in. But for the purpose of today, this is a what's called a Celtic Sisters knot. And so I'm going to turn this into this. I'm going to ask my partner in crime here to grab the camera. We're going to walk over to the finished product. And so we're going to turn this into this. Go ahead and zoom in as close as you can on these, Nick. All right. So what we're trying to do here is, at the end result is you can mount it and frame it if you want. You don't have to. I could take this piece, just the Celtic knot itself, and make it into a pendant or a brooch. So lots of different things you can do with it. And packaging is important too. So the way I've created this particular one is maple with butternut. And what I've done is put it on a backer board, framed it, and in the back included my card, included the story. Having the story is real important. And then, of course, you guys probably recognize these. I buy these coins that are laser engraved by one of the finest people in the business here, Steve Good, and had my name put on that, and I put that on all the back of my work. And I also include this story. This is the story of the Sisters Celtic knot and why it provides some comfort to some, or a bespoke feeling of family or your heritage. And it's printed on parchment paper in emerald green. So it's provides a meaning and good packaging that's already ready to hang. So beyond that, I'm going to walk you right over here and tell you where we go from here. So what I've done is I cut the pattern out, and I take this shelf liner, and I'll cut it to size to the wood, and it's the shelf liner sticks to the wood, and then I'll take a spray, Easy Tack or Elmer's Craft Bod, and spray the back of the pattern and put it on the top piece of wood. And so one of the things I try to do is I try to alternate the grain on the wood, so that the end result is when I swap the heart out for the other part of the symbol, the grain's going in a different direction. So since I put the template on the top piece of here, this is my maple. It's going in, say, a north and south direction. So I'm going to put my butternut behind it in a crosswise direction. And the reason that's important is For instance, this one here has the spalted maple going east and west, but the heart is pretty much plain. You can't see too much grain direction in there, so it stands out. The heart stands out more. And that's what I was talking about earlier. What I'd love to do is get like a leopard wood or a a paddock or something of that nature to have alternating colors, and that way the heart is red. But when you cut these, this is what happens. So you're going to end up with two templates. And so, Nick, what you're going to want to do is kind of tilt this down so they can see this pattern here. Tilt it more. There you go. This is the big one. So I've already delivered one to the family that ordered this. This is what's left. So I get to make another one. And as you can see, this is walnut and maple. So the one that was produced for the other customer was reverse of this, because you end up cutting two. And the way this works is when we're done is I cut out these pieces, swap them, and then put the opposite wood into the other template. So that's how you end up with two pieces of wood and to form one heart, one symbol. And then what I'll talk about later when we're done cutting is how this goes together. So, in fact, I'll do it real quick right now. So right here, I have a really good seam. Can you get right on top? Point down. There you go. So like right in here, these are pretty tight. So I'll probably just glue these together. But this seam here, there's going to be a little bit of a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some glue, and I'm also going to take some sawdust, which I collect at every cutting. I'll take sawdust and mix it, and then make sure that I glue this up real well. And then it has to sit overnight. So after 24 hours, I can then begin to start carving. So when you're carving a Celtic piece, whether it's Celtic rope or any other Celtic design, usually they want you want to make it appear that the intersections are under and over. So what that looks like is it's all one continuous run, but you have to carve out the sections that intersect. So if you can notice, there's a little bit of a curve going underneath there. So that's all done with a carving knife, and then you have to sand. So there's a little bit of work involved, but it turns out to be a really nice finished product. So I'm going to go over here at this point. What I have to do now, this is a really important step, is you need to tape these together. One of the best things to do is to use super glue as well in an area that's not going to have a pattern. But I think for this particular demo, I think I'll be okay. And it's going to be real important to tape it to the point where it's very, very tight, because you don't want them to move while you're cutting them. So I'm going to get this as good as I can there. There. Can't have enough tape on this one. So one of the things that happens when you're cutting these, especially when you're cutting a layer like this, and this is probably, thicker than I would have liked to have gone, but that's what this big one was, is, your blade can drift. So that can be a challenge when you're trying to cut the pieces and trying to fit, when you alternate the pieces, they may not fit exactly from one pattern to the other. So I like to tape it really, really well so that the wood doesn't shift as I'm cutting it. So that's a pretty good bond there, I think. All right, and then the next thing to do is, you need to drill. Now I could use I could easily use this. But the reason you want to use a Seyco scroller drill or a drill press, if you have a drill press, is because you know it's going to be a straight hole once you're done. So I'm going to step over here. Okay, right over here. And so when you're drilling, you need to usually have a piece of wood underneath whatever it is you're drilling so that the bottom doesn't blow out too much. In this case, it really isn't going to matter too much because I'm going to drill pretty much in the middle, and I don't want too much blowout, so I am going to put a piece of wood underneath it. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and drill a hole close to one of the corners in all of these parts, and then we'll get over to the saw and start cutting. So I just need to make a short adjustment here. All right. And I think we're good there. So not too bad. Even though it was taped, didn't have too much blowout there. And it looks like I got all the holes I need, so we're gonna go come back over here and have Nick put my camera back in, and we'll get to scrolling there. So I'll go ahead and take a short stop here and ask Shaylee if we have any questions.
So far, we don't have any questions for you.
Awesome. Okay.
You're doing a good job explaining everything.
Thank you very much. And so as we cut here, I already lined my saw. I know that's set. My blade's taut. Obviously, if you're one of the other frustrations that people say that they have with scroll sawing is the blades are, well, blades do break. That's part of it. So if I anticipate anything breaking today, I have plenty of backup. And, my main concern with this is to try to not have too much drift. And then as I'm cutting it, I do try to save the sawdust because I need it for the glue up. So one of the things I'll do is I'll just take a card scraper and scrape it into a bag, and then I label it. Or another cool thing to use is if you could save all your old spice jars and label those, is a good way to keep your sawdust. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself started here. And I think if I can get myself closer here, try to get you a better view there. I think we're close there. All right. Now, normally, I would have my dust collector on. I have a dust collector, a Seyco carries one, and what I do is I just point it to underneath here, right below the table where the blade is. For the sake of noise, I'm not going to turn that on today, but I am going to wear a mask, so it's real important if you're new to scrolling. Scroll saws carry a lot of dust, create a lot of dust, and you do not want that in your lungs. So I'm going to go ahead and put my N95 mask on. I also have a respirator, but I only use that for when I do vapors like painting or staining. So for this instance, I'm just going to use an N95 mask, and we'll get started. Just going to release the tension on that blade. And then you always want to cut the interior pieces before you cut the outside so you have something to grab. All right. And we're off.
Your saw is so quiet.
I love it. A lot quieter than my old one. Okay. Not too bad.
How thick of wood do you recommend using?
So it would depend on the project. You know, I mean, I think on the big piece that I put on the wall was 3/4 inch, so that's going to be a pretty thick spot. I would, you know, if you're just starting out, I would definitely go no more than 1/4 inch. This is thicker than that. So for demonstration purposes, I probably should have got thicker stock, but I'm using what I got on hand. So if you were doing 2/8 inches, you'd have 1/4 inch. If you had 2/4 inches, you know, stacked, you'd be at 1/2 inch. So this is pretty thick. So overall, this is a good inch. So this is 1/2 inch stock. So it does take a little bit longer, obviously. You can't push it. You got to let the blade do the work. All right. Moving right along. So today I saw a couple of crosses that I'd love to incorporate some of this type of knotwork into. So there's so many good artists out there to learn from. It's just amazing. And of course, not all of it's fallen out, but I will be able to get it out when I take these two pieces apart. So again, just trying to get the interior pieces cut before I can cut the outside shape.
And we have a question from Charles Daring. He said, so is his choice the first time to use contrasting woods due to a custom order or a no-brainer kind of decision to make it stand out?
That was really my preference, and I think it was more so to have the heart stand out. So yes, that was my recommendation, and like I said, I'm really hoping soon that I can try some other species to really get it to look spectacular. I'm either going to use just oils, and depending on the species, or I might even try some watercolor this year. But I got a lot of different ideas. But yeah, I think it's more of my suggestion to make it heart stand out. Thank you, Charles. You don't want to go back in for me? There we go. So how's the angle on the camera? Would you like me to do more of an overhead?
It looks good here. Let's ask the people in the chat. Would you guys like to see more of an overhead, or do you think it looks good?
So it was really hard to hear you. Were you asking the crowd or me?
Oh, I was asking the crowd. Charles says, looks great to me, Dan.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Steve also says it looks good. So I think you're good where you're at.
Cool. I think my blade's ready to go. Sometimes you can just feel it.
Yeah, and you're cutting super thick too, so.
So, Shaylee, do you have a the foot switch?
I do. I love it.
That's on my shopping list, I think. I hear it.
Once you get one, you'll never go back.
That's what I hear.
My foot switch actually will turn on because I have the 3-way underneath. So
For the dust collector?
yeah, so it will turn on my dust collector and my light.
Nice.
Charles Daring said, shout out to Ray, Mike, and the shop guys at Seyco.
I'm sorry, Shaylee, could you repeat that?
Charles was shouting out to Ray, Mike, and the shop guys at Seyco.
Hey, hey, hey. Oh, so by the way, that last piece I did, the big one, who could tell me how big that was? I went to capacity on the saw. Might give you a hint. So on its longest side, it's about 20 1/4 inches. So that's another reason I couldn't have done that with my 16-inch saw.
Charles said 21.
Yeah. Cutting like butter. Well, it may not seem like it, but one of these is harder than the other. It's cutting pretty well.
So as far as different species of wood, do you recommend putting the harder one on the bottom or the top if you're using two different types when you're sawing?
That's a great question. I felt that I wanted the butternut on the bottom because it's much softer, and I think the last time I did it, I had the butternut on the top, and I got a lot of blade drift. So right now, looking at it from here, it looks like it's cutting pretty straight. So I think at this point, but I'm going to suggest not using butternut. It's just what I had on hand. I really like the feel and cut of hardwoods. So when you mix them, you do run into possibility of blade drift. So, but at this instance, I put the butternut in the bottom. We'll see how it turns out. 2 more cuts, and we're ready to do the outside.
what size blades are you using?
I want to say it was a 9 reverse blade. As you could probably tell, I am not exactly on the line, but it's close enough. And with sanding or carving anyway, it's going to be just fine. Here we go. Those two came out. Last cut. For the innie. All right. Hooray. Okay, so pardon me for just a moment. Just trying to get these other pieces out. And for the most part, we have all the interior cuts done. And then what I'll do is I'll usually cut the outside, and as I'm cutting the outside is when I cut the interior piece for the heart out. And then take it apart and put your hearts, swap your hearts off.
Do you have certain places that you cut into your pattern to make those bridges?
Say that one more time.
Do you have certain places that you cut into to make the heart?
Yeah. So let me go ahead and show you on the bigger one. Just be easier to show you that way. So sorry for the flip, but you guys see that okay? Looks like, huh? So, this is where the heart's going to get cut out. So there's going to be a cut here, here, both sides of this. So you'll have a V for this part of this heart. This is the right side of the heart, will be up here. And the left side of the heart will be up here. Now, when I first started doing these, I did make a few mistakes.
I'm like, I don't know, I might get confused.
But so to just backtrack on this, when I made the prototypes, I put them on Instagram, my Instagram and my Facebook feed. I hadn't even delivered the big one yet, and I had 25 orders for those ones in the frame. And it was, December. I was like, let me get cooking here. So that was pretty cool. But I made a lot of work for myself. All right, so let's see. I think I'm going to come in this way. Now, what I could do here is I could go ahead and continue on to get this left side of the heart. Whoops. Nothing a little sanding can't fix. And you never want to back into a cut again. I wouldn't want to recommend that.
I'm probably going to butcher this, but Mike with Dances with Aardvark said, a heart in Triskelion?
Triskelion. That's what he's saying. Yeah.
Okay. He says, nice.
Awesome. Thank you. Whoops.
Boy, I used to jump out of my skin when I first started. When that would happen.
Tom Taylor is watching. He said to say hi. He can't post anything. He's still in Facebook jail. But he can watch. Hello, Tom.
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I couldn't hear you. Who's watching?
Tom Taylor's watching. He just can't post anything in any chats because he's still in Facebook jail.
Oh!
But he says hello, everyone.
All right. So some of the things that I have challenges with is you got to make sure your stock is flat. There's a little bit of a unevenness in some of this stock, so that's why it's jumping around a little bit. Blades get worn, but if you can master the pivot, and I probably would have changed the blade already, but in the interest of time, trying to get through this cut. and it's a little bit thicker than stock than I would probably use normally for a smaller piece. But it seems to be doing its job. Alrighty. So I went ahead and cut one part of the heart out. So we have one cut here. So I need to make 1, 2, 3 more cuts to get this section out. 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts to get the V section out, and the same 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's another 12 cuts to cut the heart out total. So I'll go ahead and do that. And this is where you want to be really, really careful. If you're not sure, then it might be a good idea to tape it again, because the pieces are going to move on you now. And if you want them both to fit, then it can't hurt to make sure that you're trying to keep them straight, you know. That's where if we glued it in the beginning, this would be helpful as well, but I've already cut the waste out. So let's try to get this heart out. I feel like a surgeon now.
You are like one. Dan asked if you had Celtic ancestry. He explained it at the beginning, but we can't remember. Were you Irish descent with a German last name?
That's correct.
Okay.
So I'm German, French, Irish with a little bit of English. My father was German and French and had Irish in him as well. And my mother's almost all Irish. And I live in Chicago, hence the name Chicago Celtic Crafts. So this was another thing I did too, is you can see, this is a hybrid Chicago flag. It's got 4 stars, and this is being used as the star. I made a couple flags like that, and people just love them. So another interesting tidbit while I'm cutting here. My father's German side, my great-great-grandfather, Schumacher, moved here from Germany in the 1830s, way back in the day. And he was actually a stonemason and was one of 3 stonemasons who helped build the Chicago Water Tower.
Wow, that's amazing. That's cool history to know.
And what's also interesting is when they couldn't lay stone, of course, in the winter, he had to have other skills. So he was actually a basket weaver and would trade with the Indians for clothing, food, whatever they needed. All right, so I got the one section out. I got 2 more to go, and we'll whip right through that. So that's going to be 1 cut here.
So did any of the baskets get passed down through the generations?
Any of the what?
Any of the baskets?
No, not that I know of. I think he traded them all away for food.
Probably.
Okay, I was just looking where I needed to be here, and we'll go through there. All right, we got 2 down. And last one is here. And I'm really just trying to feel the side of the wood there. I was just trying to keep this together with the tape. So And one more cut. Starting to move a little bit on me, so of course the last cut. Alrighty. So, are you ready?
We are ready.
All right, so I'm going to take the tape off now. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Guess we should have had some music here. Sorry. Alrighty. So that's why I put the shelf liner on, so it peels right off. And here we go. So this is my spalted maple top, correct? This is my butternut bottom. And all we want to do is switch out the hearts now. So I got my heart pieces.
So you get a 2-in-1.
You get a 2-in-1, a twofer.
That's awesome.
So now I'm just going to put my maple heart in my butternut base. And it's okay if it's uneven because my stock was not exactly flat. But, you know, we can sand that down. It's not a problem. There we go.
Beautiful.
So now we have two Celtic Sisters knots. And then what I would do at this point is I do make sure they're on a flat surface. And then I would do a glue up. So again, what I was talking about before, if you look, if you don't have sawdust, you can make sawdust, right? But I have separate butternut and I have separate maple sawdust. So again, depending on where I would see the seam, I might choose to use, like in here, I would probably use more butternut glue. So basically what I would do is I would get on a different surface, not on this saw, of course, and I would take probably a little bit around this much sawdust, right? And I would pull it up. I would pull up and put glue in there and take like a credit card or, a very, very thin piece of veneer and mix this up into a very, very fluid type paste, right? So, and then I would take this portion and I would glue very heavily on that portion and do the same thing all the way around and then tape it with painter's tape or whatever tape you want to make sure that this is sticking together. You could clamp it if you want to, that big The big Celtic Sisters heart, I actually clamped it with about 4 or 5 clamps in order for that to stay, and waited overnight.
Charles says, beautiful, Dan. Steve from Hardnail Media says, very cool. Charles says, simple yet elegant, very cool.
Thank you. How much time did that take?
We are at 1 hour and 24 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that time flies when you're having fun, right?
Right?
So I really appreciate everyone sticking out. And
I do have a question
today.
for you.
Okay.
So you carve out the heart to, make the levels. What do you have particular carving tools that you prefer, that you like?
It's whatever works. I have a lot of different tools. I would do. In fact, that's a great question. If we come back here now, and I'll have an example. So you can see this. So you should be able to see my examples here, right?
Yep.
So I have an example of one I made. And to be honest, I mean, all you really need from this point is a standard straight chisel, if that's what you want, if that's what you're comfortable with. Because all I'm going to do is, once the glue up is done, of course, this is already on a backer board, but once the glue up is done, what I would do is I would take a straight chisel like this and carve down where the under and over go. And, if you're not sure your pattern, and I always have extra patterns out, the extra pattern would tell you what appears to be the under or over, okay? And so all I do is I only go down maybe 1/8 of an inch, in this example, and give it the appearance that it's going through the heart, right? So all you need is a straight chisel. I also have one of my favorite tools, and this is where you can get good tools. They ask for them for Christmas. So that's what I did. Depending on the carving, I have a couple of smaller sets of flex cut. I love Beavercraft. Unfortunately, they're in Ukraine, so they're having a real tough time right now. I have a lot of carving tools from them. I also have a full set of chisels from Shaft Tools. But all you really need for this is, depending on how you like to carve, I love using this knife. This is one from Beavercraft. If it depends on how much you're trying to get in. Some people prefer just to use sanders. So for instance, you could probably see how uneven this is because of the way I didn't use the best even stock. And all I would do for that is I have one of those small belt sanders that you can put upside down on your bench, and I just I'll put the piece on there, or I have one of these sanders, with the 6-inch disc, or a belt sander. And I even have for my drill press, I have these drum sanders. But since I wanted to try to get into Intarsia this year, I noticed Seyco's got the what do they call it? The soft.
We lost your sound. Oh, I don't think he knows. We lost your sound, Dan. Hey, Dan. I don't know if you can hear me. Ah, what a bummer. We lost your sound. Oh, he knows now.
Sorry about that. Did you lose me?
Yeah, we lost you.
Sorry. So the last I heard was what type of sanding I think it was you were asking, or I'm sorry, cutting knives.
Yeah, we heard a lot of it. We only lost you at the end there when you were holding up the frame.
Oh, okay, right there. Oh, that wasn't too bad then. So yeah, that was like I said, it's the finishing touch is all up to you. I found a lot of success with this, but I'm going to be making brooches. I might even make a hairpin out of it. You know, there's a lot of different opportunities. But what I think I was talking about was since I wanted to start getting into Antarja, is, you know, they got that dual flex drum benchtop sander from Rikon from the Seyco group. You know, another benefit to sanding wouldn't necessarily be on this piece. You wouldn't need it, but sanding's a necessary evil. And then on these, all I used was oil, so mineral oil, and then I shellacked them. That's all I did, just to bring out the grain.
Awesome. That was my next question.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a nice little project. It does take a little bit of time, but you can make them in batches.
That's cool. You want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. I am at Chicago Celtic Crafts. If any of you are makers, and let me see if I can find it now. I probably misplaced it, but I got myself a new sticker. So if you'd like to do a sticker swap, send me yours. I'll send you mine. Or I have an Etsy shop that I believe Shaylee put into the chat. I'm on Instagram. I have a lot of different time lapses on some of these pieces on my Instagram. It's Chicago Celtic Crafts. And I'm on Facebook.
Perfect.
But I really appreciate you having me on today. Thank you all for your time and attention.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your craft with us. We really appreciate it, and hope to have you on again. Thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat and commenting. Mike says it's beautiful.
Thank you all.
And hopefully we'll see you back here soon, and we will be having more Makers Lives. We will start on a continuous basis on Wednesday nights and Sundays, so make sure you join us here at Seyco, Facebook and YouTube. And you guys all have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.